Oh god, machine theory exam is enhanced, man. Check it out.
No, okay. Let's check it out. It was hard exam, you know.
No, you think so? It was very easy, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's only 9 out of 25, man. I just...
Look, it says real over there.
Wait, what? This can't be real, man. Do you know the syllabus? What's the percentage?
No, man, I think you should throw.
Yeah.
I don't think you can test this one.
Me neither.
Just leave it.
Yes.
Did you know every year thousands of students drop their courses because of the first midterm grades?
Oh, no, sorry man, I forgot my gun here.
Why do you need it?
One of my friends got 0 in her exam, so she need to kill himself. So
Oh, it's okay then. So that's why we are going to investigate how midterm grades are effective on the future motivation of the students. Will they pass or are they gonna shoot themselves?
So here what we are looking for is there a relationship between two parameters. So our parameters are, one of them is the difficulties of the first midterm and second one is the students' behavior in terms of the working to the midterm. We come up with the two hypotheses here. First hypothesis is midterm grades gets harder, students will start to study more in order to catch up to the difficulties. And second hypothesis is the midterm grades of the students get higher, their motivation to study will decrease and they will study less than before since they can achieve the high grade with their current study pattern.
So, in order to analyze our hypothesis, we collect data and we prepared a questionnaire consist of 6 questions. The questions were about how long they prepared for their first midterm exam and how long they prepared for the second midterm exam or final exam if they don't have a second midterm, their grade in their first exam, and how difficult they find their first midterm exam. Did they consider dropping the course after they learned the first midterm exam result? Did they calculated how much point they need in final or second midterm exam for the pass the course? Their gender, the department which they study in. So we noticed that the first half of these questions are related for our hypothesis. So the last 4 questions are not related for our analyzed. There were 78 participants and most of them were male, so you can see the graph here. The methodology was the following tests and graphs that we will compute for the further investigations. You can see sample mean, variance and standard deviation for the first midterm working hours, second midterm or final working hours. We should calculate the t-interval since the control groups are we use t-interval since we don't know the population's standard deviation. We cannot use the interval test. So also we computed paired t-test since our sample groups are dependent, and we calculated correlation score, and after that we came up with linear regression models for the first midterm exam and study time change, and difficulty of the exam and study time change, 2 regression models. For the results,
yes, for the results, first we calculated the mean, variance and standard deviation of first midterm and final and of course the midterm grade to use in our further calculations. You can see the cumulative distribution functions of first exam grades and the difficulty of the first midterm exam. You can see the PDF of the both again in the diagrams. If we come to confidence interval, we calculated our confidence interval for working hours as shown and the midterm notes as shown as well. So correlation we find that difficulty to change in study time correlation is minus, and first midterm grade to change in study time is again minus. This shows there is a negative relation between them. To prove our hypothesis, we made a paired t-test, and you can see our results in the table. We find that our data is significant enough for this kind of test. We made our linear regression model. You can see the difficulty of exam in the first one, and the first midterm grade to study time in the second one. In both cases, we find R-square is very low, which means our variance is very high, so the linear model is not useful for us. In the end, we find that indeed difficulty of the exam makes some changes in the students' working behavior, but more than that, the exam notes itself are more relevant. You can see in the graph that when people get low grades, they study more, and they get high grades and study less.